Hey YouTube! This is actually my second attempt at filming this. I haven't been feeling the best this morning and actually had to take some Benadryl because I was having a little bit of an allergic reaction. But that is over. I only took like a half a Benadryl, so it's not like completely put me out. It did make me want to take a little bit of a nap, but I'd also been up since 6:30 a.m. just couldn't get back to sleep. It's weird. This week's video is about Newt, and in honor of Newt and his wonderful blue coat, I wrote my notes for him in this pretty turquoise color. So I am a sucker for like pins that write really, really nice. And I'd ordered a pack of the Pilot Precise rolling ballpoint pins, the really like thin line ones. I love those things, they're amazing. But yeah, all different kinds of ink, different colors, amazing. So anyway, back to Newt. And I'm sorry if I get off topic. I am still on prednisone. Hopefully that won't be much longer. Hopefully, just a couple weeks just to get everything back under control. It is not easy living with a chronic illness, especially one that makes you feel crappy all the time. But this is my life, and it has been for the last 5.5, almost 6 years. It'll be 6 years in June. And I'm sorry if I'm talking really fast. I'm kind of just like out of it. But yeah, I didn't want to wait. I wanted to go on and make this video because I love Newt and the world deserves to know why. So, my first point is that Newt is not the typical male hero. Normally when we see a male hero in a movie, he's portrayed as being this overconfident guy almost. But Newt is very much the opposite. He's socially awkward around people, which is so much me. It's not even funny how much like Newt I am. But he's socially awkward. He doesn't quite understand people the way he does animals. And that is something unusual for a male hero in a movie, or even a book really. But yeah, and he's gentle. He has to be in his line of work. When you're dealing with hurt, sick animals, you don't want to provoke them to hurt you back because they're scared or anything. So, I mean, next point is he is more at home with animals than with people. We get to see that when he's down in his case in the first movie. But he's more comfortable in this suitcase that he carries around with him that he just keeps animals in. And we see his need to help the helpless. An animal, when it's hurt, can't like fend for itself the way it normally would. So Newt takes them in and cares for them, essentially running a magical veterinary clinic, which is amazing. But yeah, and at the end of the first movie, his goal is not to win Tina. We know that's where it's headed eventually, but that wasn't his goal in the first movie. His goal in the first movie was to, 1, set Frank the Thunderbird free. By the way, who names a Thunderbird Frank besides Newt? And 2, to save Credence. And he didn't save Credence just because Tina asked him to. Yes, that was a reason, but he wanted to do that anyway. Also, we get to see exactly how much of a Hufflepuff Newt is just in these first two movies. Number one is that he is hardworking, and anyone that has had animals or pets knows how much work one of them is at the best of times. Like my dog, she's perfectly happy. She's healthy. She's less than 2 years old and still very much a puppy. So she's into everything, which is why I have her locked away in her little bedroom. We keep her in the extra bathroom because nobody ever goes in there. Her bed, her food, water, everything like that she needs is in there. She doesn't get beds anymore because she destroys them. If anybody has a suggestion on how to keep my dog from destroying a bed, I will be forever grateful, because I don't like making her sleep on the hard floor. But she refuses to sleep on blankets. She'll just wad them up in the corner of her kennel and forget about it. And then she thinks beds are toys. So. But anyway, back to Newt. One animal, when it's perfectly happy and healthy and not hurt, is still a lot of work. And then Newt has, we don't know exactly how many creatures, either in his case or his basement, but it's a lot. And caring for a sick and injured animal is even more work than normal. But he's determined to help them. And I get the feeling that the extension charms on the case and his basement, he taught himself that. Because it might have been something that you would have learned in your 7th year, and I think Newt was expelled in his 6th year. So he might not have gotten the chance to be taught that at school. So he had to teach himself. And learning a new spell, especially one as extensive as that, is difficult. And you have to be determined to get it right, because who knows what could happen if you get it wrong. His loyalty. I mean, he was loyal and such a good friend to Lita, so much to the point that he took the fall for her. We know that that's the reason he got expelled from school. We don't know exactly the reasoning, we don't know like the actual situation, but we do know that Lita did something involving a Jarvie, and Newt took the fall for her. And we all know that Dumbledore knew that Newt was lying, which was why Dumbledore tried to get the decision for Newt's expulsion reversed. And also, as far as his loyalty goes, years after being expelled, he still thinks Hogwarts is the superior school to Ilvermorny, which is, I don't know, it's amusing to me. That's all. Just amusing. Oh yes, look at my nice pretty cat. This was my last Wizarding World Hogwarts Harry Potter related item from Christmas, and I can't believe it took me this long to actually dig it out of my box and to actually start using it. And I probably drink way too much Dr. Pepper, but that's beside the point. Trying to read my chicken scratch. Like, it looks all nice and pretty, but the fact that I'm writing in cursive when I handwrite just kind of like blows my mind a little bit. Oh yes, in the second movie, Newt knows he's being manipulated by Dumbledore. He is smart enough to see that, and he doesn't want to fall for it. He really doesn't. He's hesitant to go to Paris at first when Dumbledore asks him to. Like, he doesn't even actually seem to want to go to Paris until he finds out Tina is there. I do think maybe eventually he would have gone to Paris, like once he'd actually like had time to think of a plan to how to get there. Maybe send an owl to Travers and all them in the ministry, agreeing to join the ministry, aka the Ors department under his brother, which I still think Theseus worked to get that agreement for Newt so Newt could travel. Because, you know, brother. And as an older sibling, you want the best for your brother or sister. But I do think once Newt had heard that there was a Zoru wreaking havoc in Paris, he probably would have, like, grabbed whatever creatures he decided might be useful to him and taken them with him. And also, like, maybe once he thought things through about Credence, maybe then he would have also tried to come up with a plan to get there to save Credence and try and convince Credence not to join Grindelwald. But yeah. I mean, once Jacob and Queenie showed up and got in an argument, and Newt saw that postcard on his living room floor and realized that it was from Tina, his decision was made in an instant, I mean. And coming up to Jacob, Jacob and Newt's relationship is very important. In the first movie, Jacob teaches Newt how to interact and communicate with people, which is very important. Crap, I forgot what I was going to say. Brain fog! It doesn't help that I worked 7 hours yesterday and had to deal with crazy rude people. I will be making a rant video later about that. So yeah, my notes just say Jacob teaches Newt how to interact with people in the first movie. And then in the second movie, Crimes of Grindelwald, Newt is just asking for Jacob's advice on how to make Tina happy with him again. He knows that he messed up somehow. He's not exactly sure because he's Newt and he's not the best when it comes to reading people or communicating for that matter, but neither is Tina. And Jacob seems to take it upon himself to be Newt's wingman, which is amazing. And I think Jacob and Newt are probably the bro TP to end all bro TPs, honestly. Just, like, they are basically like family. Like, Newt seems closer to Jacob than his own brother, which is weird. But then again, such a Newt thing to happen. So, who knows? So, Newt asks for Jacob's advice. And I think his reasoning for that was he saw Jacob and Queenie in a long-term relationship and thought, okay, there's something to this. My brother is engaged to the only other person that I might have had feelings for, but I have a history with that person. Tina, on the other hand, Newt does not have as much of a history. He didn't know her from the time they were kids. I mean, Jacob and Queenie met at the same time that Newt and Tina did. So yeah, I have in my notes that Newt saw Jacob and Queenie in a relationship and probably wondered how to get to that point with Tina, which probably isn't like too far off of an idea. But in Crimes of Grindelwald, Newt did make progress. I mean, as far as interacting with people. He went from not wanting to hug Theseus at all, not wanting any physical contact, to trying to comfort Theseus by giving him a hug just a few minutes after Leda's death. And I feel like Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them Newt wouldn't have done that, because he doesn't like physical touch, he doesn't like contact, he's not comfortable with that. So, I mean, for him to willingly embrace his brother and give him a hug, that's, yeah. And also, Newt is the one to grab hold of Theseus and apparate him out of the amphitheater. So, yeah. And now I am to the compliments Newt gives to Tina, which are amazing. There's really just the two. But the salamander eyes line was set up so perfectly, and I'll explain this later. But I just wanted to throw that out there. In those two moments, Newt had the confidence to say exactly what he was about to say. Now, he did get nervous and flustered enough to actually drop his wand, which is odd, because I feel like Newt wouldn't normally do that, but then again, talking about feelings is hard, okay? It is really hard. He compares her to the middle head of the Rune Spore, which out of those three heads, the middle one is the visionary. It tries to think of different solutions. I mean, the other two heads are trying to fight and kill each other, while the middle head is like, no, I don't want any part of this. So, I mean, that is a very nice thing to say about somebody. And now I'm to the salamander eyes. Like, seriously, look at that. That is all my notes on this one line. And I'm not going to go into everything, but, like, I had to, like, have some kind of thought process written down. It was almost like stream of consciousness when I was making my notes. First off, Newt did try to listen to Jacob. His advice, don't mention salamanders. Newt did try and listen to that, because he did say at some point, I'm not supposed to say, when Tina asks him, like, what? But Tina ends up finishing that line. About where he'd only seen the fire and dark water look, which, by the way, I did find a very pretty picture of a reflection of fire on water, and that is absolutely beautiful, and I imagine that's probably something similar to what a magical salamander would look like-ish. I mean, the Muggle/Nomad salamander is just kind of a boring little lizard. I mean, there's not much to them. I don't know much about lizards, to be honest. But yeah, in that moment, when he's trying to give her a very nice compliment, and he's not entirely sure how it's going to be received, so he doesn't want to do anything that's going to push Tina away. He wants to bring her closer to him rather than push her farther away. I mean, in that scene, she was pretty miffed with him. Yeah. And I did look up in the textbook salamanders to see what all was in there, and there wasn't much. But, hang on, let me... So, the salamander is a small fire-dwelling lizard that feeds on flame. Brilliant white, it appears blue or scarlet depending upon the heat of the fire in which it appears, in which it makes its appearance. So, they are literally born from flames. So, yeah. And it also says they will only live as long as the fire from which they sprang burns. So once that fire is out, the salamander dies. But I imagine that he probably described how they looked in one of his letters, because there's not much in that book. And we know Tina read his book, and we know they exchanged letters. So I think maybe it was probably something that he had said in one of his letters. And I really want to read